It was the eve of the end. The sky above Earth had long ceased to be the serene blue it once was. Now an angry, sickly red hue stretched across the horizon, a permanent reminder of the devastation wrought by an enemy so far beyond humanity's capacity for defense. It was almost laughable. The alien fleet, an armada of vast, incomprehensible ships, hovered ominously in Earth's orbit. No one knew where they came from, nor what they wanted, only that they were here to exterminate humanity. The last remnants of the human race clung to life in the heart of their greatest military installation, an underground bunker buried deep beneath the Sierra Nevada mountains. Inside the complex, a room full of the most elite soldiers, scientists, and leaders the world had ever known gathered around a single, flickering holographic display. They were the last of humanity's hope. The enemy had annihilated Earth's defenses, crippled entire cities, and decimated governments. Every attempt to repel the invaders had ended in failure, and as the last days bled into one another, hope had become a distant memory. The surviving nations had crumbled into nothing, and now only the elite remained, those chosen to survive, to fight back, to resist. General Adam Rourke, once a man known for his calm and composed leadership, stood at the center of the room. His graying hair and battle-worn face spoke of the years of warfare, yet his eyes burned with a fire that defied the hopelessness of their situation. "We can't let them win," he growled, his voice sharp like the crack of a whip. "We have nothing left to lose, but that doesn't mean we roll over and die. This is our fight. It's our species, and I won't go down without making them regret ever stepping foot on this planet." His words were met with murmurs of agreement, but the silence that followed was thick with doubt. For all their resources, for all their training, they were still humans, a race so weak, so small compared to the invaders. Even their greatest weapon, a devastatingly powerful quantum cannon, had failed to make even a dent in the enemy ships. The quantum cannon's failure wasn't a mistake, said Dr. Ilara Vasquez, one of the leading scientists in the underground complex. She had short, dark hair and eyes sharp enough to cut glass. It was a test. They're testing us. They're testing our resolve. The room fell silent again, the weight of her words hanging heavily in the air. The enemy, whoever they were, seemed to enjoy drawing out humanity's suffering, playing games with them before the final blow. And now they were just waiting for the inevitable. A voice broke the silence, softer but no less determined. Captain Jenna Klein, a veteran of the human resistance, spoke up, her voice cool and unwavering. "It doesn't matter if they're testing us. We know what they want. We know how they fight, and we can still do something about it. They may be far superior technologically, but they have no idea what we're capable of when our backs are against the wall." There was a pause, and then Major Quinton Hayes, once a pilot of unparalleled skill, stepped forward. "We're all in agreement that Earth's future is grim. But if we're going down, we'll go down fighting. That's the human way." Rourke looked around the room, his gaze locking with each of his commanders and advisors. They were the last of the resistance, the last line of defense, and they were about to make a decision that would either save humanity or seal its fate. "You all understand what needs to be done, then?" Rourke's voice held no room for hesitation. "Yes, sir," Dr. Vasquez said, her tone as resolute as a seasoned warrior. Captain Klein nodded. "We're ready." Rourke turned toward the massive, projected hologram of the alien fleet, its terrifying silhouette casting an oppressive shadow. "Then let's make them regret underestimating us." With a final, steely glance, the meeting ended. The team went their separate ways, each member steeling themselves for the impossible task ahead. As the doors slid shut behind them, a single thought echoed in their minds. Humanity might have been on the brink of annihilation, but they weren't finished yet. Not by a long shot. The countdown had begun. No one was going to die quietly, not while there was still breath left in their lungs. The underground complex hummed with energy, the quiet, tense atmosphere mirroring the heavy weight in the air. It was a race against time now. Humanity's future rested on a fragile edge, and the elite survivors had but one chance to turn the tide, if they could even get to their last hope in time. Dr. Alara Vasquez had never been more certain of a theory in her life. They had one weapon left, a weapon she had devised in secret long before the alien invasion had begun. It was called the Catalyst, a device capable of temporarily amplifying humanity's weakest trait, adaptability. It could allow human soldiers to operate with unprecedented speed, intelligence, and agility, turning them into hyper-efficient killing machines for short bursts of time. The Catalyst was not a cure-all. It wouldn't solve the overwhelming technological superiority of the invaders, nor would it repair the vast holes in humanity's defenses. But it was a weapon born of desperation, and, in desperate times, anything was worth a shot. "How close are we?" General Rourke's voice broke into her thoughts, and she snapped her head up, locking eyes with the man who had once led the charge against human enemies, and now found himself facing an insurmountable force from beyond the stars. "Almost," Dr. Vasquez said, her hands moving across the holographic interface as she double-checked the catalyst systems. "The prototype is ready, but the biosynchronization could take some time. We'll need volunteers." A low murmur rippled through the room. The thought of taking a volatile and untested serum was terrifying, especially given the stakes. But if anyone was willing to risk everything for a slim chance of survival, it was the men and women in this room. Captain Klein was the first to step forward, her face grim but resolute. "I'll volunteer." She was one of the few who had always been willing to take on the most dangerous missions, and she had led humanity's resistance for years. Her commitment had kept them alive in the face of overwhelming odds. But now, even her legendary resolve seemed to waver. The stakes were higher than ever. "Captain, the Catalyst could," Dr. Vasquez started, but Klein cut her off with a wave. "I know the risks," she said. "I've fought long enough to understand what's at stake. If this is what it takes to win, then I'll do it." Major Quentin Hayes stepped forward next, his weathered face revealing little of the anxiety brewing beneath the surface. "I'm in too." Rourke looked at the two of them and nodded. "Prepare yourselves, then." He turned back to the screen, his gaze lingering on the alien fleet. There had been no signs of communication, no demands, no threats, just their overwhelming presence. As though they were waiting for something. The humans didn't know if the aliens were simply content to watch, or if they were actively calculating their final blow. Either way, humanity had no time to waste. "How long before it's ready to deploy?" Captain Klein asked, trying to mask the apprehension in her voice. 2 hours at best," Dr. Vasquez replied. "But the moment we deploy the catalyst, there's no going back. There's no guarantee of survival. This will either make you strong enough to fight back, or it'll leave you incapacitated." "Understood." Klein's voice was firm, but the brief flicker of doubt in her eyes did not escape Rourke's notice. He could see the toll that this last-ditch plan had taken on her, but he also knew that she would do whatever it took to ensure humanity's survival. "Then we'll need to move quickly," Rourke said, his voice steady. "Get the catalyst into the field and be ready for deployment. This will be our last chance to strike before they come for us." The countdown to their final confrontation was rapidly ticking down. The hours stretched into what felt like minutes, and before long, Dr. Vasquez was leading the team down into the lab, a hidden chamber deep within the complex where the catalyst was held. With every step, Rourke's mind raced. Was this enough? Could they really turn the tide with something so untested, so uncertain? And yet, as the door to the lab slid open, he knew one thing for sure. There was no turning back now. The catalyst was their last hope, and the only chance they had left. The fight was coming, and humanity's elite would not die quietly. The underground lab was silent except for the hum of machinery and the soft shuffling of boots across the metal floor. Captain Klein, Major Hayes, and Dr. Vasquez stood before the catalyst, a cylindrical device pulsing with faint blue energy. It looked deceptively simple, but they all knew its true power. The catalyst was the product of years of covert research, a weapon no one had dared test until now. Klein's breath hitched as she looked at the syringe-like injector held in Dr. Vasquez's hand. It glowed faintly, filled with a clear, viscous substance that hummed with an eerie energy. "Are you sure this will work?" Klein asked, her voice steady but laced with concern. Dr. Vasquez didn't look up from her calculations. It's our only chance. The biosynchronization will increase your physical and mental capabilities, but it comes at a cost. The serum is designed to tap into your body's full potential, but it's unpredictable. The risks. I know the risks, Klein cut in sharply. She'd faced death more times than she could count, and right now it felt almost like a relief compared to the unknown. Just do it. We don't have much time. Major Hayes looked over at Rourke, who stood quietly in the corner, observing. He could see the hesitation in Klein's eyes, but the captain's resolve was unshakable. They all knew this was a long shot, but with the fate of humanity hanging by a thread, they had no choice. Rourke nodded curtly. Let's do this. We fight or we die, and I'd prefer to go down fighting. Klein stepped forward, standing tall as Dr. Vasquez approached her with the injector. It was now or never. With a sharp intake of breath, Klein braced herself as the needle punctured her skin. A sharp sting spread through her arm, followed by a surge of heat that radiated through her entire body. Her muscles tensed involuntarily, as if some internal switch had been flipped. The room blurred for a moment, and her vision sharpened, the edges of her surroundings growing clearer, more defined. She could hear every whisper of machinery, every breath in the room, as though her senses had been amplified beyond what was humanly possible. How do you feel? Dr. Vasquez asked, her voice tight with anticipation. Klein flexed her fingers and felt the raw power coursing through her. She looked at the others in the room, her mind calculating the minute details of their movements, their body language, every imperfection, every detail. She could see it all. The world around her had slowed, like a well-oiled machine. Stronger, Klein whispered, her voice low but certain. She could feel the energy surging beneath her skin. This is going to work. Major Hayes stepped forward, his gaze intense. It's your turn. Klein nodded. She was in control now. It wasn't a feeling she'd ever experienced before, not like this. For the first time since the invasion began, she felt as though she was truly in charge of her own fate. Dr. Vasquez administered the catalyst to Hayes, and moments later, the Major's eyes widened in the same way Klein's had. The serum was taking effect quickly, faster than she had anticipated. Hayes's posture straightened, his face hardening into the focus of a man ready to face anything. Rourke stepped forward, his hand gripping his sidearm. It's time, he said. We don't have much longer. They'll be here soon. Klein took a deep breath, her enhanced senses picking up the faint vibrations of movement in the ground beneath them, the hum of the enemy's ships in orbit. The time to strike had arrived. The plan was simple. Infiltrate the alien fleet's control station, sabotage their communications, and create a window for humanity's remaining forces to strike. It was a suicide mission, but Klein wasn't afraid. The catalyst had made her into something she wasn't, something beyond human. Everyone ready? Rourke asked, his voice like steel. Ready, Klein answered, her voice steady and full of fire. As they moved toward the exit, a sudden tremor rattled the complex. The ground shook with the weight of the enemy ship's descent. They were coming for them. There was no more time for hesitation. Let's make them regret coming here, Rourke said grimly. And with that, they stepped into the hallway, ready to face the greatest challenge humanity had ever known. The countdown was reaching its final moments. The battle was about to begin. The air in the underground base was thick with tension. The team, now fully enhanced by the catalyst, moved like a well-oiled machine. Every step, every movement, was deliberate, calculated, and precise. The once heavy atmosphere that had plagued them was now charged with the energy of raw determination. It was a feeling none of them had experienced in years, and though they knew it was a temporary power, they also knew it was their only chance. Captain Klein led the way, her senses on high alert, scanning for any signs of the enemy's movements. The corridors of the complex seemed almost too quiet as they made their way toward the hangar, where their last remaining transport ship waited. Each footstep felt like it echoed through the silence, but to Klein's enhanced ears, the hum of distant machinery and the occasional creak of metal were as loud as thunder. "Everyone stay sharp," Klein said, her voice laced with a cold confidence. "We can't afford any mistakes." Major Hayes was close behind, his movements fluid and unnaturally fast, his eyes darting from side to side, picking up details he would have missed before the catalyst. His hand was clenched around his pulse rifle, his knuckles white. He felt like he could fight off an entire battalion of the invaders if it came down to it. But there was something else in his chest, a gnawing sense of urgency. Time was slipping away. The hangar door opened with a soft hiss, and the transport ship, an armored, compact vessel designed for stealth operations, loomed ahead. It had once been humanity's pride in space combat, but now it felt like a relic, an old ship from a bygone era. The only thing that mattered now was the mission. Rourke stood at the entrance, scanning the area. "We're clear. Move out." The ship's ramp lowered with a sharp mechanical whine, and the team filed inside. The ship's interior was dimly lit, the air heavy with the smell of old fuel and cold metal. As they strapped in, Klein could feel the intensity of their mission settle in her chest, a burning weight that only heightened her focus. They were heading straight into the heart of the alien fleet, an operation so dangerous, even the slightest mistake would mean certain death. The engines hummed to life, and the ship lifted off, silently cutting through the underground tunnels before breaking through the surface and into the sky. As the ship ascended, Klein's gaze shifted to the red-hued sky above, the vast alien ships now visible in the distance. They were massive, looming behemoths that seemed to dwarf the Earth's once proud cities, casting long shadows over the planet's surface. "It's time," Rourke muttered under his breath as he sat at the helm, his fingers deftly maneuvering the controls. The ship accelerated, rocketing through the atmosphere at breakneck speed. Klein watched as the cityscape below quickly vanished, replaced by the vast emptiness of space. In the distance, the alien fleet waited, its ships positioned like a wall around the Earth, blocking any hope of escape. The enemy was watching. "We're approaching the target zone," Rourke said, his voice steady but full of purpose. "Get ready." Dr. Vasquez, seated at the tactical console, was silent, her fingers moving with a practiced ease. "I've got the coordinates. The alien command ship is on the far side of their formation. We'll need to get close before they notice us." "Understood," Klein replied, her focus unwavering. She could already feel the rush of power coursing through her veins, her senses heightened to a level she had never thought possible. The alien ships seemed to shift and pulse, as if aware of their presence, but they hadn't yet reacted. Captain Klein knew that they were playing a dangerous game, one that could end with them as nothing more than a speck of dust scattered across the stars. But they had no other choice. The ship's sensors blared, signaling an incoming fleet of enemy interceptors. They had been detected. "Brace for impact," Rourke barked, his hands flying over the controls as he veered the ship into evasive maneuvers. The ship shook violently as the first rounds of alien fire raked across its shields. Klein felt the thrum of the impact reverberate through the vessel, but it was nothing more than a minor annoyance to her enhanced senses. Her eyes locked onto the incoming enemy ships, and for the first time since the invasion began, she felt a cold, almost predatory calm. "They're fast," Hayes said, his voice low as he readied his rifle. "But not fast enough." Klein grinned. Her reflexes were quicker than ever. With a sharp motion, she grabbed a weapon from the ship's weapons locker, a high-powered plasma rifle, and stepped toward the airlock. "Let's show them what we're made of," Klein muttered to herself, her mind racing as her heightened instincts processed every possible outcome. She could already see the angles, the weaknesses. These were aliens that had underestimated humanity's will to survive. The airlock hissed open, and Klein, Hayes, and the rest of the team stepped into the void of space. The alien interceptors swarmed toward them, their sleek, insect-like forms gliding effortlessly in the zero gravity. Klein raised her rifle, and in that moment, everything around her slowed. The world was no longer a blur of chaos. Every movement, every detail was crystal clear. She fired, the plasma beams lighting up the dark expanse of space as she struck one of the alien ships in its vulnerable core. The interceptor disintegrated in a brilliant explosion of light. Nice shot. Major Hayes shouted over the comms as he took down another alien fighter with a well-aimed shot. But Klein didn't reply. She was already moving, her enhanced body flowing through space like a predator hunting its prey. With every shot, every move, she felt more alive, more powerful than she ever had before. The enemy had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to survive. And now, they would pay the price. The battle raged around them in the cold, silent void of space. Captain Klein, Major Hayes, and the rest of the team moved with lethal efficiency. Their senses sharpened beyond anything they had ever imagined, their minds processing and reacting in real time, faster than the alien interceptors could react. Each shot was calculated. Each movement was purposeful. They were a storm in the stars, and the enemy, arrogant and overconfident, had no idea what was coming for them. Klein fired again, her plasma rifle searing through the blackness, hitting one of the alien ships square in its engine compartment. It erupted in a violent ball of flame, sending debris scattering into the void. She didn't pause to watch the explosion. Her eyes were already trained on the next target, another interceptor that had darted toward her with frightening speed. Her reflexes were so fast now that it almost felt like the ship's weapons were extensions of her body, every shot landing with deadly accuracy. "Keep moving," Klein barked into the comms, her voice barely audible over the sound of the battle. "We need to get to the command ship. The longer we stay here, the more of them there will be." The team advanced, moving toward the heart of the alien formation where their true objective awaited, the alien command ship. It was the heart of the invaders' operation, the center of their communications, and the source of their control over the fleet. If they could disable it, they might just create a gap in the alien defenses, a gap big enough for humanity's remaining forces to strike and retake Earth. But getting there was going to be difficult. The alien fleet had been waiting for them. "Enemy reinforcements incoming," Major Hayes said, his voice tight with focus. He fired off another series of shots, taking down 2 more interceptors. "We're not going to make it through this without a fight." Klein glanced back over her shoulder. The rest of the team was covering their 6, but it was clear that the battle was shifting in the enemy's favor. The alien interceptors were fast, agile, and relentless, and now that the command ship was aware of their presence, it was sending wave after wave of drones to intercept them. The team's shields were holding for now, but that wouldn't last forever. "Rourke," Klein said over the comms, her voice low and steady. "We need a distraction. I'm going in." Rourke's voice crackled back through the comms, a mix of concern and resolve. "Negative. You're not alone in this, Klein. We're all going." "No, this is my fight," Klein replied, her eyes narrowing. The catalyst was still coursing through her, giving her the strength and speed to keep fighting. But she knew that she couldn't rely on it forever. She had one shot to get inside that command ship, and if she didn't act now, they would all be dead. There was a moment of silence, and then Rourke sighed. "I'll cover you. Just don't get yourself killed." Klein's lips curved into a brief smile. No promises. She turned her attention back to the command ship, her enhanced vision already picking out weak points in its defenses. It was massive, larger than anything humanity had ever constructed, and it hovered like a monolith, pulsing with a sinister, otherworldly energy. Without another word, Klein activated her thrusters and shot forward, leaving the rest of the team behind. The void of space swallowed her whole as she accelerated toward the alien ship, her plasma rifle raised and ready for whatever came next. Her mind was razor-sharp, and with every passing second, she grew more attuned to the mission, to the objective, to the overwhelming odds stacked against her. The alien drones continued to swarm around her, but Klein was no longer reacting out of desperation. She was in complete control now, each movement flowing like water, each shot landing with deadly precision. As she neared the command ship's docking bay, her heart pounded in her chest, not from fear, but from the sheer adrenaline of knowing that this was it. This was the moment. The docking bay doors loomed ahead, massive and imposing, but they were opening. It was almost as if the aliens were inviting her in, like a cat luring a mouse into a trap. Klein didn't hesitate. She activated her thrusters again and darted through the gap, slamming into the airlock as the door sealed behind her. She was inside. The silence of the alien ship was deafening, broken only by the low hum of its machinery. The interior was sleek, unnervingly clean, and utterly alien. The walls seemed to pulse with a strange organic rhythm, as if the ship itself was alive. It was disorienting, but Klein shook off the feeling. She didn't have time to be awed by the technology. She had a mission to complete. Her eyes flicked over the ship's control room, and she immediately spotted the central command console, a vast, intricate structure that seemed to be the heart of the ship. A group of alien soldiers, humanoid in form, but vastly different from anything humanity had ever encountered, stood guard near the console. They hadn't seen her yet. Target acquired, Klein whispered to herself, her grip tightening on her rifle. Time to make some noise. With a sharp exhale, she darted forward, using the element of surprise to her advantage. The first alien fell with a single, precise shot. The others reacted, but it was too late. Klein was already upon them, her body moving faster than their senses could keep up with. She fired again, and then again, cutting down each one with deadly efficiency. In the span of a few seconds, the guard detail was eliminated. Klein reached the command console and immediately began accessing the ship systems, her fingers flying over the alien interface, as she used the catalyst-enhanced intelligence in her mind to make sense of the alien technology. The room seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat, and the hum of the ship grew louder as it seemed to sense the breach. The enemy would be upon her in seconds. She had no time to waste. She connected her device to the console, bypassing layers of alien security with ease. Her heart raced as she decrypted the command structure, one code after another. Then, finally, a signal flashed on the screen. She had access. Klein's heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the screen. The alien command ship systems flickered to life, the once inscrutable interface now responding to her commands. The catalyst in her veins hummed, heightening her awareness and intellect, allowing her to process the complex alien technology with a precision that felt like second nature. The screen in front of her displayed a series of alien symbols that meant nothing to the human eye, but to Klein, they were like an open book. Her fingers danced over the interface, connecting the final link and triggering the ship systems to respond. There was no time to question whether or not she could do it. She had to. Suddenly, a sharp alarm blared throughout the ship, signaling that the breach had been detected. The lights dimmed briefly, and the hum of the ship's energy systems grew louder, as if the entire vessel was reacting to her presence. "Damn it," Klein muttered, her eyes narrowing as she scrambled to re-establish her access. The aliens would be coming for her now. There would be no time to leave the command room. As she worked, a cold, alien presence seemed to seep into the room. It wasn't just the ship systems that were reacting. It was the alien consciousness behind it. Klein could feel it, the awareness of something ancient and calculating, probing her mind. A subtle ripple of psychic energy brushed against her senses, as if the ship itself was trying to read her thoughts. But she wasn't alone. The rest of the team was out there, fighting to cover her back. Rourke and the others would be in position, waiting for the signal to strike. The countdown to their success or failure had begun. She gritted her teeth and focused. "Focus, Klein. You're almost there." Her enhanced mind surged forward, bypassing firewalls and breaking codes at a speed that would have been impossible for any ordinary human. The alien network shuddered under her efforts, and then, with a final keystroke, the entire control system flashed green. The command ship was hers. Klein paused for only a moment, her breath steady but heavy in her chest. The adrenaline was still coursing through her, but now there was a terrifying calmness to it. She had no time to celebrate. This was just the beginning. "Rourke," she whispered into her comms. "I've got access. Initiating shutdown sequence now." "Copy that," Rourke responded quickly, his voice crackling with static. "We'll hold off as long as we can. Just don't get yourself killed in there." Klein allowed herself a tight smile, but it was short-lived. She was still inside the heart of the beast, and she could feel its pulse like a drumbeat in her bones. She quickly input the shutdown command, knowing that if it worked, it could disrupt the alien fleet's communications and coordination, throwing their entire invasion plan into chaos. But the system didn't respond immediately. Instead, the lights in the room flickered violently, and the ship's hum grew louder. Then a voice, not human, not even remotely familiar, spoke directly into her mind. "You think you can stop us?" The voice was cold, infinite, like a vast ocean crashing against her consciousness. It reverberated through her very thoughts, as if the entire alien race had just recognized her as a threat. Her enhanced mind recoiled from the sheer weight of it, but she didn't falter. She had prepared for this. "We are not the invaders," the voice continued, its tone laden with contempt. "We are the architects. You are nothing." Klein's fingers tightened on the console as the pressure mounted, but she didn't back down. "I'm not here to stop you. I'm here to finish what humanity started." The alien presence seemed to swell around her, a dark, oppressive force. She could feel it trying to infiltrate her mind, trying to overwhelm her, but the catalyst kept her grounded. It wasn't just her physical enhancements that made her strong. It was her indomitable will. Humanity had always fought back when pushed to the edge, and she was no exception. She pushed through the psychic assault, her focus laser-sharp. There was a final sequence she needed to trigger, a full fleet-wide shutdown. Her fingers flew over the alien interface, inputting command after command, her mind running through the necessary code faster than the aliens could react. Then, finally, the command ship's central energy core flickered. She felt the tremor of a massive system failure rippling through the ship as its power began to drop. The lights dimmed, the once all-encompassing hum now a dying echo. A massive burst of energy shot from the core, and Klein knew it was working. But just as she prepared to leave, the door to the command room slammed open. For alien warriors entered, their bodies encased in black, armored exoskeletons, their eyes glowing with a menacing light. They moved with terrifying speed, their weapons raised and aimed directly at Klein. "You are too late," the voice in her mind sneered. "The system is already repairing itself. You will die here." The alien warriors advanced, their weapons crackling with dangerous energy. But Klein didn't hesitate. She had no choice but to fight. Her enhanced body moved before her mind could even register the decision. She whipped her plasma rifle from her side and fired in one fluid motion, taking out the first warrior with a direct shot to the chest. But there were still 3 left. "You will not win," the voice echoed again. "This is only the beginning." Klein fired again, ducking behind the console to avoid a hail of enemy fire. The odds were against her, but for the first time since the war had begun, she didn't feel fear. She only felt the fire of humanity's will to survive burning brighter than ever. The air in the command room crackled with tension. Klein crouched behind the console, her enhanced senses alert to every movement of the alien warriors closing in. The alien voice still echoed in the back of her mind, taunting, reminding her that time was running out. She had only moments before the system restored itself, before the aliens regained full control. Her fingers tightened around her plasma rifle. She could hear the heavy footfalls of the warriors, their exoskeletons creaking with every movement. The sound sent a chill down her spine. They were relentless, precision-engineered to be the perfect hunters. And now they were closing in on her. "You cannot stop us. We are eternal." The voice was maddening, a psychic presence that pressed down on her thoughts, trying to make her doubt herself. But Klein's mind, enhanced by the catalyst, fought back. The more it tried to push her, the more she resisted. Humanity had never been more than the sum of its species. It was their unbreakable will that had carried them through the darkest of times. And that will was stronger than any alien threat. She peeked around the edge of the console, her eyes locking onto one of the warriors as it moved closer. It was too fast, its movements too smooth. The plasma rifle in Klein's hands felt almost like a toy compared to the raw strength of the creature. "It's just another challenge," she thought. "Just another enemy." Without hesitation, Klein sprang from her cover, launching herself into the air using her suit's thrusters. The alien fired first, a deadly energy blast searing through the space where she had been just moments before. Klein barely dodged the shot, twisting in midair and landing behind a support beam. She fired, hitting the warrior's exposed side with a direct blast. The warrior staggered, its armor sizzling from the impact, but it didn't fall. Instead, it turned, snarling with an inhuman fury. "Damn it," Klein muttered, shifting her aim to the creature's exposed joints, looking for any weak spot. She'd faced down bigger odds before, but this was something else entirely. She didn't wait for it to react. Her enhanced reflexes kicked in. She fired again, this time hitting the alien's shoulder joint. There was a loud hiss as the armor cracked open, exposing the creature's fragile biology beneath. With a final shot, the warrior collapsed, its body crumpling into a heap of glowing, blackened metal. The other two aliens were already moving toward her, their weapons aimed directly at her. Klein knew she had seconds, maybe less, to act before she became their next target. She dropped low to the ground, activating the ship's systems to cloak her in the briefest moment of invisibility. For a heartbeat, the room went silent, the warriors confused by her sudden disappearance. But only for a heartbeat. They adjusted, scanning the area with frightening precision. Klein had no intention of waiting for them to find her. She reappeared from the shadows in a flash of motion, firing once more. This time, the plasma burst struck one of the alien warriors directly in its chest, sending it crashing backward. The other alien retaliated, releasing a burst of blue energy that ricocheted off Klein's suit shields. Sparks flew as the force of the shot pushed her back, but she held firm, pressing the attack. Her mind raced through her options, through every possible move she could make. The shutdown sequence was almost complete, but the alien warriors weren't going to let her finish it. She had no choice. Klein dashed forward, using her thrusters to close the distance with terrifying speed. The alien fired again, but Klein was already on top of it, her enhanced strength allowing her to rip the weapon from its hands in a single fluid motion. The alien hissed in fury, raising its claws, but it was too late. Klein slammed her fist into the creature's midsection with all the force her augmented body could muster. The alien crumpled, the sound of its bones cracking under the blow ringing in her ears. She didn't pause. She spun, kicking the alien's body aside, and turned to face the final warrior. The last alien, wounded but not yet defeated, raised its weapon again, its glowing eyes locked on her. It was faster than the others, its movements a blur. But Klein's senses were too sharp now. She could see every motion, every slight adjustment in its stance before it made it. She sidestepped its attack, feeling the heat of the energy blast as it missed her by inches. The alien tried to adjust, but Klein was already behind it. She grabbed its arm, twisting it with brutal precision until the alien's weapon dropped to the ground. Without another thought, she drove her knee into its spine, sending the creature crashing to the ground. The final warrior struggled, but Klein was relentless. With a final twist of her arm, she snapped its neck, ending the threat. For a moment, the command room was still. The alien warriors were no more, their bodies lifeless on the floor. But the ship was far from quiet. Klein turned back to the console, knowing time was running out. Her pulse was pounding in her ears, and her breathing was heavy. She'd done it. She'd bought herself enough time. The shutdown sequence was nearly complete. "Rourke," she said into her comms, her voice steady despite the chaos she'd just endured. "I've neutralized the threats. The shutdown will be finished in a few seconds. Get ready." There was a brief silence on the other end, and then Rourke's voice crackled back through the comms. "You better hurry. We've got more company." Klein's eyes flickered to the corner of the room, where a flickering red light indicated new, incoming threats. Her time was up. With a final command, the shutdown sequence completed. The alien command ship trembled. Power flickered in and out, and the once imposing hum of the vessel began to stutter. She had done it. But now, the enemy would know. The countdown to humanity's counterattack had begun. Klein quickly turned and dashed for the exit, the sound of approaching alien reinforcements already filling the air. The ship was crumbling, But the battle was far from over. Humanity had just ignited the spark of its resurgence, and Klein was going to make sure it burned bright. Klein raced through the twisting corridors of the alien command ship, her mind working on overdrive. The power systems were failing, but the ship's defenses weren't fully offline yet. The deeper she ran into the bowels of the ship, the more intense the alien presence became. She could feel them gathering, like a swarm of angry hornets closing in on her position. Her comms crackled to life, Rourke's voice breaking through the chaos. "We're almost at the rendezvous point. You need to move faster, Klein. You don't have long before reinforcements hit." She didn't need telling twice. Her enhanced body surged forward, each step taking her further from the chaos of the command room and closer to her team. She could feel the pulse of the ship as it struggled to maintain its power, the hum of its dying systems like the last breaths of a wounded beast. But as she rounded a corner, the unmistakable sound of alien footfalls echoed down the hallway. She wasn't alone anymore. The aliens were moving fast, and they had adapted quickly to the shutdown. The battle would soon be on again, but this time, Klein was running on borrowed time. Her enhanced strength and speed would only carry her so far. She needed her team. "Rourke," she shouted into her comms, her voice urgent. "Where are you?" There was a pause, then Rourke's voice responded, strained but resolute. "We've got your back, Captain. Just hold on. We've got a clear path for extraction, but we need to hold off the main force. Can you get to us?" Klein didn't hesitate. "I'm close. Keep them off me. I'll be there in 5. The sound of enemy soldiers grew louder, more intense. She glanced over her shoulder, catching sight of several alien warriors advancing at a run. Their armor gleamed in the dim emergency lights of the ship, and their weapons hummed with deadly energy. Klein's pulse quickened, but she pushed the fear aside. She was faster than they were. She was smarter. She darted down another hallway, using her thrusters to propel herself around corners within human speed. But as she moved, the ship seemed to grow darker, as if the failing systems were trying to swallow her whole. And then she saw it, an open hatchway leading to a large, cylindrical chamber. It was her only way through. She slammed into the opening, activating her shields just in time to absorb a barrage of alien energy blasts that followed her in. The chamber's interior was filled with strange, alien equipment, something that looked almost organic in nature. The walls pulsed as if the ship itself were alive, reacting to her presence. "Not today," Klein muttered through gritted teeth. She took cover behind a console, her fingers flying over the alien interface in an attempt to close the hatch. But the ship's systems were far from cooperative. There were more enemies on the way, and Klein had only seconds to prepare. She took a deep breath and reached for the weapon at her side. Her hand closed around the hilt of a familiar, human-made grenade, a last resort. She primed it quickly, then tossed it toward the hatchway just as the aliens emerged from the shadows. The explosion that followed was deafening, shaking the chamber and sending the nearest alien soldiers sprawling. Their armor was no match for the blast, but the noise would draw more. She had to move. Just as the smoke cleared, Klein heard the familiar sound of Rourke's voice again. "We've got you covered, Captain. You're clear to move." Klein didn't waste a second. She sprinted from her cover and dashed down the hallway, using the last of her thruster fuel to propel her faster than humanly possible. The walls seemed to close in, but she didn't care. Her only goal was to reach her team and get off this ship before the aliens could regroup. The hallway opened up into a larger chamber, a staging area. And there, waiting for her, were Major Hayes and the rest of the squad. Their guns were already raised, covering her every move. The battle had been hard, but humanity's elite soldiers were still standing. "Captain," Hayes called, a grin flashing across his face. "Did you manage to wake up the hornet's nest?" "Not yet," Klein replied, "but we're about to." The group moved quickly, clearing the area as they went. Klein felt the pulse of the ship again, its death rattle. The countdown to total system failure was nearing its end. The moment the power cut out completely, the aliens would be left in the dark. It was their only chance. "Let's move," Klein barked. "We're almost there. Rourke, you ready?" "Always," came the reply from Rourke's position at the rear. "Just keep pushing, Captain. We've got this." They made their way through the twisting, decaying corridors of the alien ship. But as they neared the extraction point, a final, desperate wave of alien soldiers appeared in their path, blocking their way. These were the elite of the alien forces, their faces hidden behind sleek, faceless helmets, and their bodies cloaked in advanced combat armor. They were here to stop them. And Klein knew it. There was no choice now. They would have to fight their way through. Klein raised her rifle, signaling for the team to hold their positions. She felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. There was no fear, only focus. The battle began in an instant. Alien fire rained down, and Klein's team moved as one, returning fire with precise, lethal shots. But the aliens were relentless, and their numbers seemed endless. "We're almost there," Klein thought, her mind racing. Just a little longer. As the firefight intensified, Klein realized that this wasn't just about escaping anymore. It was about proving that humanity, no matter the odds, would never give up. They had come so far, and they weren't about to let a bunch of aliens take everything from them. They had already won. It was just a matter of time before the rest of the galaxy saw it too. The battle raged in the heart of the alien command ship. Every shot fired a testament to humanity's resilience. Klein moved like a storm, her enhanced body in sync with every decision her mind made. She didn't have time to process fear, only strategy. Every motion was an instinct, every shot calculated. The alien soldiers, once thought unbeatable, were falling under her squad's combined firepower. But even as their numbers dwindled, the alien forces didn't relent. They were too numerous, too organized. And their weapons, though alien and strange, were devastating. "Grenade!" Major Hayes shouted as one of the alien soldiers lobbed an explosive toward their position. "Incoming!" Klein shouted back, activating her shield at the last moment. The blast hit her squarely, but the energy field absorbed the brunt of the explosion, sending a violent ripple through the air. Klein was knocked back, but she quickly regained her footing, her mind already running through their next move. "We need to push through to the extraction point," she yelled. "Move, move, move." The squad advanced, pushing toward their goal, but the alien forces were regrouping quickly. They weren't going to let them escape that easily. As the squad moved through the hallways, a deep rumble echoed beneath their feet. The ship was shaking violently. Klein's heart skipped a beat. She could feel the tremors through her bones. The shutdown sequence was near completion. The ship was dying, but the aliens were desperate, and they knew that if they didn't stop the humans here, they would lose everything. Klein's mind raced. They needed to get out now, before the aliens had a chance to regroup or call in reinforcements. A flash of light lit up the corridor ahead, followed by the unmistakable roar of alien weapons. Klein swiveled toward it instinctively, her rifle at the ready. But as the light flickered again, she saw something that made her blood run cold. A large group of alien soldiers, far more than before, were moving toward them in an organized formation. They had positioned themselves in a defensive formation, blocking their only path forward. "They've sealed us in." Rourke's voice came through her comms, his tone tense. "We've got nowhere to go." Klein's chest tightened. There was no way to go around them. The only way through was a fight, and it would be bloody. The countdown to the ship's final shutdown was already in motion, but there wasn't enough time left to wait. If they didn't act now, the alien forces would have the chance to regroup, and that was a risk they couldn't afford. "Hayes, take the left flank. Rourke, you're with me. We break through on my signal." Klein barked. Major Hayes and Rourke moved into position, ready for the assault. The alien soldiers were closing in, their energy weapons primed and ready to fire. Klein's pulse quickened. The alien voice had been taunting her from the beginning, but now it was time to show them what humanity was capable of. She raised her rifle and fired, the blast cutting through the first wave of aliens. Rourke and Hayes followed suit, their weapons barking in the dim, flickering lights. The aliens retaliated with a deadly barrage of their own, and the hallway became a swirling battlefield of energy beams and gunfire. Klein's squad moved like a single organism, precise, disciplined. Klein's enhanced vision picked out weak points in the alien formation, and with Rourke covering her six, she darted forward, dodging blasts as she advanced. Her rifle crackled, dropping 2 more enemies with precise shots. But they were not backing down. The alien warriors pushed forward, their faces emotionless, their movements cold and calculated. She was almost there. The extraction point was within reach. But the closer they got, the more desperate the aliens became. Push through. We're almost out, Klein yelled, determination in her voice. But just as they were about to break through the final line of defense, an ear-splitting roar filled the air. The walls shook with the intensity of it, and Klein's vision blurred for a moment. The alien command ship wasn't just failing, it was falling apart. The final shutdown had begun, and the ship's systems were in full meltdown. The sound of the roar intensified as an enormous figure appeared in the hallway ahead. It was taller than any of the other aliens, its armor bulkier, more imposing. The alien's body was adorned with sharp, spiked plates that seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy. The alien leader. It was the one who had been taunting her through the ship's comms, the one who had been speaking in her mind. This was the true face of the alien threat, and it was here to end them. "We don't have time for this," Klein said through gritted teeth, raising her rifle to fire. But the alien leader raised its hand, and the gunfire stopped, frozen in the air by an unseen force. "You think you can defeat us?" The alien's voice filled her mind, its tone mocking and cold. "You are nothing but insects to us. Your resistance is a flicker, soon to be snuffed out." Klein's body tensed, but she didn't falter. "You've underestimated us from the start." She could feel the alien's power pressing against her mind, but she pushed back harder. Her body surged with the energy of the catalyst, the enhancement that had turned her into more than human. She wasn't just fighting for her life now. She was fighting for humanity's future. The alien leader's face twisted in fury. "You think you can resist? You think you can survive this?" And then it attacked. The alien leader's energy blasted out in a shockwave, pushing Klein and her team back. The ship's hull groaned under the strain of the battle, and Klein's vision swam. But in that moment, her instincts kicked in. She had no choice but to fight with everything she had left. The battle between the two forces was fierce, a clash of willpower, raw strength, and desperation. Klein moved faster than the alien could react. Her rifle aimed at its weak points. The alien's energy blasts collided with her shields, but she pushed through, relentless. And then, with a final decisive strike, Klein's rifle fired a shot that pierced the alien leader's core. The alien staggered, its energy dissipating in a burst of light as its body collapsed. The alien leader was down, but Klein knew the battle wasn't over yet. Her team was still fighting to survive, and they needed to escape. "Everyone to the extraction point," Klein yelled, her voice filled with raw determination. The ship was collapsing, the last remnants of the alien fleet's control slipping away with every passing second. But humanity was about to prove, once again, that even in the face of annihilation, they would not go quietly into the dark. The ship's corridors groaned as if protesting the final stages of its destruction. The alien command vessel, once a symbol of unchallenged superiority, was now a crumbling relic, its systems malfunctioning, its forces decimated. Yet, even in the face of imminent collapse, the alien resistance refused to yield. Klein's squad, battered but unbroken, surged toward the extraction point with all the ferocity humanity had left in them. The alien leader's body lay crumpled at their feet, its once imposing form now just another obstacle in their path. But that victory, hard-won and costly, was fleeting. The alien forces were in retreat, but they had been cunning enough to delay them. The countdown to the ship's self-destruction was accelerating, and Klein knew that time was no longer their ally. "Keep moving. The extraction point is up ahead," Klein shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. She turned to face her squad, watching them fight tooth and nail to hold their ground. Major Hayes, Rourke, and the others were making sure they weren't followed. The echoes of the alien forces retreating were almost drowned out by the ship's crumbling soundscape. But the threat remained. Klein's heart pounded in her chest as she broke into a sprint. Every footstep, every heartbeat, felt as though it could be her last. The walls of the ship seemed to close in on her, and the once pristine metallic corridors were now twisted, decayed, and unstable. But there was one thing Klein knew without question. Humanity would never let the darkness win. Not without a fight. Not without a final stand. And that final stand was coming. Her comms crackled to life. "Captain, we've got incoming." Rourke's voice was grim. "This is it. No more time." Klein's eyes narrowed. The exit was so close now. "Everyone take position. Hold them off. We've got one last push in us." The squad pivoted, firing in unison, cutting down the last remaining alien soldiers as they appeared from the shadows. Their faces were still obscured behind armored helmets, but Klein could feel the desperation in their every movement. They were starting to realize that humanity wasn't going down without a fight. Not this time. Klein ducked as a blast of alien energy passed overhead, narrowly missing her. She returned fire, the plasma beam striking one of the alien soldiers in the chest. The creature collapsed, its body sizzling as it hit the floor. "On my mark," she shouted, her voice barely audible over the noise of the gunfire. The rest of her squad snapped into formation, following her every move. With one final push, they fought their way toward the extraction point, a narrow passage leading to an escape pod. The door to the pod was just ahead, and the countdown to self-destruction was flashing on the terminal above it. The alien ship was a dying beast, and it would take them all with it unless they got out now. Klein made a split-second decision. "I'll cover you. Get to the pod." "No," Rourke snapped, his voice laced with defiance. "We go together, Captain." Klein's gaze met his, and for a moment, she saw the same resolve in his eyes that she felt in her own heart. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. It was a fight for the future of humanity. A fight for the stars. With a final desperate surge, Klein pushed forward, her squad close behind. The ship's power was flickering, the once humming walls now dim and unstable. The lights in the hallway flickered, casting eerie shadows over the group as they approached the escape pod. Another blast rocked the ship, sending a wave of force through the passage. Klein's squad stumbled, but kept moving forward. They couldn't afford to stop. Not now. Not when they were so close. As they reached the pod, Klein hit the emergency release, and the door to the escape pod opened with a hiss. She was the last to enter, her rifle raised as she kept watch. The rest of the squad piled into the pod, and Rourke gave her one last nod, the unspoken words clear in his gaze. It wasn't just a victory. It was a turning point. "Let's go," Klein ordered, slamming her fist onto the pod's controls. The escape pod shot away from the alien ship, propelled by the last remnants of its own failing systems. Klein watched through the small viewport as the alien vessel began to rupture, explosions blooming across its surface as the countdown reached its end. The pod shot forward, its engines roaring to life, carrying them away from the destruction. Through the chaos and the terror, Klein felt an overwhelming sense of relief. They had made it. They had survived the impossible. And now, as the alien ship behind them detonated in a fiery explosion, sending shockwaves across the void of space, she realized that this was only the beginning. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, but it had fought back. It had shown the galaxy its true strength. And as the escape pod veered toward the safety of their fleet, Klein knew one undeniable truth. The war was far from over, but humanity had just taken the first step toward its resurgence. The alien invaders may have had their victory, but humanity had learned to rise from the ashes. And this time, they would not fall. Not ever. With the final blow struck, the battle was over, but the fight for humanity's future had only just begun. Would they continue to resist? Would they rebuild? Or would the stars themselves tremble before their wrath? The answers would come with time, but one thing was certain. The universe would never forget the day humanity refused to die quietly.